life is all about your decisions. Look, if I sit here and I eat these all day, every day, do you think that's going to be helpful if I'm trying to become the best version of myself in the, realm of like running, training, lifting, all of these ideas that I like to do? Do you think that's going to be useful? Now, this is a belief. It's a belief in, a fictional body, right? If I have this, it's got calories, sugar, it's got saturated, bad fats. It's terrible for you, right? Everything you're doing is wrestling with human belief versus ideas from God. But as you fall into the dream of human belief, the powers that you've ascribed to those human beliefs are what come against you. The example of good and evil that you put in the world out here, I say it tastes good, but it's evil because it makes the insulin go up, right? Okay, you've just given God's power to something that's a graven image. It's just a dead piece of object, just like this. But you've ascribed powers of God to it, all right? Everything comes down to the decisions that you want to make. Willpower is not enough. You go into the world with willpower, you will fail if you're addicted. Your addictions are what are costing you all of your success because they're causing you to feel guilt, shame, and punish yourself. Life comes down to the first commandment. You break it, you're the fall guy. The temptation, the serpent in the garden comes through thought and feeling, human thought and human feeling, human emotion. In other words, I just got done having something that I enjoyed, that I was comfortable with, and I swear I could hear this calling from the other side of the room to me. Matthew, come on, just one. You see, that's the serpent hissing in the garden. Well, that's no different than if you are having anxiety symptoms and you're listening to the body say, listen, what if there's something wrong this time? What if this time it's different? Or it's no different if you're in a relationship and you think, gosh, I wonder if they're talking with somebody else. I wonder if they're thinking about somebody else. And it's no different. It's no different than if you see the check in the mail and you're like, it's just not enough. I just don't know how I'm ever going to make it. Look, if God is all there is, then where's the room for anywhere in God's creation for something else to emerge? How can you, in other words, through thought and feeling, you identify with a body, you become drunk in the world? Gospel of Truth, Nag Hammadi Library, drunken in your five senses, material man, we're alien to Christ. You fall into a PTSD like human, hue, coloring of the law, HUE, human belief, right? You fall into a PTSD like world. You're having a traumatic state of being separated from the allness of Christ. And therefore you're coming into the human carnal mind. The serpent's hissing at you. It's going to attempt to come at you again. And if you give into it, then you get guilt, shame, and punishment, which is always going to repeat the action, and you're going to leave with no self-esteem, no victory. And the cycle will go on and on and on, and then wherever's coming at you. This is going to call for me constantly, for days, years, months, just like it did when I had the eating disorder. Until I give it back to God and it has no power, you get to be the Christ. Everything is about the decisions you make. You make better decisions, you have a better life, right? Well, here's a decision. Who you're going to be. So the serpent comes. That's the thought. It's coming with thought and feeling. I have a thought. My brain, so allegedly the brain does this. It's not the brain, it's the carnal mind. It says, remember last time how good that tastes? Oh, the feeling was so good. Come on, let's have one. Just one. Just take a bite. Come on. Right? And then you go escalate right down the scale, guilt, punishment, and then you have 2 bites. Oh, right down the scale, then you have 3 bites. Same thing if you drink alcohol, okay? Same thing if you're addicted to porn. Same thing if you are in lack and want and always going through the, victim consciousness. Same thing. Right there is where you failed. You made a decision. You gave into the temptation because the serpent hissed at you and you kept having thoughts and feelings and thoughts and feelings and thoughts and feelings, and that's all they were. But you identified with a body. And the minute you identified with a body because of judgment, because of the good and evil that you put in the world, you're under the curse. It's all the first commandment. If you restore the first commandment, then you get to be under the shadow of the Most High. The serpent comes. Instead of thinking and feeling, you stop doing all that. And you spiritualize your thought. You go to spiritual sense. And you reason it out from truth. God, the allness of all life, spirit, truth, life immortal, eternal, goodness, always expressing itself as perfect harmony. What does God know to be true about God's creation? There is no mortal life to satisfy with human beliefs. There isn't God and 7 billion people on the planet. There's only God. What does God know to be true? And then I take all power that allegedly matter had and all of its ascribed good and evil, and I give it back to God. Restore the first commandment. Yes, the serpent's going to be like, come on, it's going to get louder. It's going to hiss more. This is when you rebuke it, just like Jesus did. Get thee behind me, Satan. I know that you're the carnal mind trying to get me to fall, so I can fall into guilt and shame and be addicted to all of your manifestations of fashion form in time-space illusion. It's a dream. This is just a PTSD dream. I don't need to react to it. I reject you. I reject you because God is all there is. There isn't God and you. You're nothing. And all of your emanations are nothing. I replace it by knowing God's truth. God's mind is the only cause to come into being, and God's mind only craves what God knows to be true, which is peace and harmony and goodness and love. I rejoice because this is the truth, Father. I rejoice because there is no other. There's only you. I rejoice because it's unchanging, imperturbable, and it can't be moved by any suggestion from the serpent in the garden. And as I continue to hold to that, the Comforter will come. I'll feel the peace, and right after that, I'll get a divine revelation because God will send his angel thoughts to minister to me. And we live in a thought universe, and when you receive a divine thought from God, which is a divine realization, that's what breaks the yoke, and it breaks the bondage to this world. This is what Mary Baker Eddy taught. This is what the science of Christian healing is all about. This is a principle that you can lean on and give your life to. You can walk in victory because the Christ is the real you.
All right, in this video, I'm going to title this How to Make It. Wait, no, that was the last one. How to Make It Till You Fake It. Very important. This one's how to fake it till you make it. Most people can't do this, although this is the secret. Remember when you were a kid and you used to play and used to, like for me, I went out and played hockey against the house and I'd shoot pucks all day and I pretended that I was in the game. So there I was, a little kid playing in the street. But in my imagination, I was living in the game. I was faking it. And the repeated action of doing that is what Neville Goddard calls engendering, okay? But here's the irony, though. Because your focus is destroyed by the stimulation of the outer, you don't have an attention span anymore. You have like an 8-second attention span. And fear is your constant companion. It's because they drove the buzzword safety home so many times into the collective mainstream database, if you will, the hybrid consciousness of AI meets humanity, okay? What they're doing is they're trying to break humanity by hybridizing it with AI. And the way to do that is to run this decoupling. They have to decouple you from the very thing that I taught you in the Make It Till You Fake It. They have to break your peg from your spirit. And in order to do that, they have to get you to seek for safety over a life that you're trying to preserve, which is a counterfeit reality. They're trying to get you to subscribe to their reality and vote in their new system by giving up your sovereignty. And your sovereignty lies not in your personality or your person or in anything that you claim to have in this world. lies in your eternal home, your life and spirit, which is the secret of all the ages. It's the rediscovery of the power of the Christ. It's Mary Baker Eddy's proof of scientific healing that she taught her students. Many people have discovered this. And, well, once you get that part, you can make it to the point where you can fake it, because you have to drop the whole schism of their world in order to free yourself. Because if you don't feel safe, if you don't feel totally surrounded by love, then you can't be innocent anymore. You can't be childlike anymore. Look at what's happened throughout all the decades, right? They used to have peace officers, and they were to protect the public peace, which they now call police officers, which are policy enforcers. And they're protecting statutory law. They're not protecting the public. Okay, now here's the deal. Do they know that? Most likely not. But it happened over time, like boiling a frog. Now everything is weaponized. They drive around in blacked out vehicles that are all murdered out black to black, and they've got tactical gear on, and they're doing all this in the movies. It's just showing you all this Hollywood dramatization. What is it doing to you? It's causing you to separate from your spirit, because God is love. God is not violent. God is not in the weaponized version of human ideas fighting amongst each other. There is no truth in that. There's no life in that. And as you become drunk in that appearance and you fall asleep in that dream, it doesn't matter which side you're on. You're in the same dream, and the outcome is the same for both parties. And it's the end of your life. It's the end of your life. What does that look like in the grand scheme of things? Well, if you turn from God because you've been shaken out, you've been disturbed, and you've broken your peace, and you stopped loving your neighbor, and you stopped having only one God, and now you're having multiple gods, and you think that yours is better than the other because, well, I'm the good guy in this equation and that's the bad guy, so I'm just doing my job. I'm just doing my job, man. I'm just doing my job, man. Those are the famous last words of every tyrant's obedient follower. I'm just doing my job, man. And who's the tyrant? The tyrant's the human mind, the one giving you the dream. And it's so aggressively embedded into the public psyche because of all the Hollywood nerdization of all these wartime memes that nobody trusts anybody anymore, which is exactly what is needed. And everybody is chasing after safety. Like, oh, I gotta be safe. Stay safe. Stay safe. Do you want your family to be safe? Well, don't hire this public official because he's going to defund the police. Do you want your family to be safe? Well, then you better hire this one because they're going to do medical research. Oh, please, give me a break. There's no good in any human creature that skulls the earth whatsoever. The only good is that good which God bestows, and if it doesn't agree with the mind of God, it certainly isn't in accord with God's message, all right? And what is that message? That message is vulnerability and peace equals divine love made manifest. Vulnerability and peace, that's what Jesus demonstrated. Look, I'm only telling you the facts, okay? Jesus didn't come all weaponized out with his, wartime gear as if he's going to fix something or set somebody straight. He didn't show up with 300 needles to stick in your arm to try to eradicate, the thing that's going around this year. Okay? No, he showed up vulnerable. I of myself can do nothing. Why? Because the power of God is all there is. Oh, and then he came in peace. He was in the neutrality. He didn't come to take a side and say, well, I think we should do this side because it's better than the other one. I don't think he did that at all. I think he showed up surrendered to the power that sustains life without any intervention whatsoever. And when doing so, it allows for the blameless innocence required so that the stage of divine love is established. And through that willingness and that accepting of the true birth man, which is the one life from the virgin birth, okay, the spirit that knows no material carnality, never coincides with it, never touches it, never dreams in sin, is in the forever joyfulness and playfulness of the Father. Until you can demonstrate that, then you can't engender anything other than war, hate, and violence, because that's the only thing sweeping the earth right now in the fashion form of this dream. This dream is well, it's at its final stages. It's the final stages, like every falling empire. It always ends in absolute lawlessness. It ends in idolatry. It ends in, it ends in all kinds of wickedness. And then it just collapses and starts over. Well, morality's been gone for a long time. I don't know if you noticed. And justice, well, God's the only hand of justice. Everything else is just masquerading around trying to look like justice, but there is no justice other than God's justice. It's lawlessness from front to back. And the lawless one hurts himself more than any other. Now, for you to engender, remember, when you were blameless and innocent as a child, you could go outside and play. Well, you probably used to ride over to your neighbor's house, and you used to scour the neighborhood, and your parents kind of let you roam freely. And I used to go off by myself all over the place. Nowadays, parents are deathly afraid of this. Why? Because of every reason under the sun that has showed up in this dream. Because of I'm not even going to speak of these evils, but you know what they are. Because the freedom is restricted so much in this dense material fog. That's what they call the human five-sense reality, a dense material fog. The freedom is so restricted in that space. That's how I can gauge where we are in the cycle of empire fall. Empire, you see, the end of an empire. Well, that empire is what they call the American dream. And like George Carlin said, it's a dream because, well, you got to be asleep to believe it. It's an illusion. Freedom is God. Conscious of God's own presence equals freedom. Freedom from addiction. Freedom from all things evil. That's what the psalmist tells you about again and again. Again, Psalm 23, Psalm 91. If you want to know what that freedom looks like, the psalmist shows you how to get there. It doesn't come from your human desire to stay safe. It doesn't come from your human desire to get approval from other people and to climb the ranks of society and become somebody important. Absolutely not. All of these things are what they call adulthood. Adulterated, corrupt. That's what adulterated means, corrupt. As you grew into that knowledge, you became merged with corruption. Okay? You went from proof of presence, okay, which is spiritual awareness, oneness, atonement, to proof of corruption. Speaking in allegorical blockchain terms, if you will. I'm just making this up. But you had proof of presence when you were blameless, innocent. You were playful. You went out and you pretended. You were the great pretender. You would imagine yourself living day in and day out in the joy of experiencing the outcome, from the outcome. But now as adults, they would call that faking it till you make it. And all the gurus are trying to get you to do that because that's what actually works. Because until you can identify as the person being in possession of what you desire, none of the actions will make any sense because it's the quality of the seed that you plant. And the quality of the seed is based on who you're being at the time. What's your state that is pouring out of that state? Because that's what's going to show up. Cause, consequence. Well, you're in a state of being afflicted. You're in a state of victimhood. You're in a state of guilt and shame because you've been given in to all of these falsehoods. And all they do is bring more and more corruption. Corruption begets more corruption, and evil destroys evil. And because evil is what is touted as good in the world right now, it has a huge following. Evil has seemingly won the day in the appearance of what you call this dream world. And that's the best place to be when you're ready to demonstrate your spiritual authority. Because what you can do is you can use it to your advantage. The same way that I used being bedridden with Lyme disease and being able to do nothing physically to my advantage, to activate my non-physical to go to work and produce miracles for me that were impossible. But rest assured, I was not able to get to that place until I got to the pure innocence of blamelessness, what I call make it till you fake it, so that you can drop the world and reveal the divine plan right before your eyes and be able to witness what God is knowing to be true. And therefore, as a witness, you get to be able to give the testimony of the true report of you in relation to God. And by doing so, you become of one mind, one accord, grace is given to you, and the spirit and the soul connect, and then the divine spirit takes over your life and corrects everything through perfect order. And that's what I call make it until you can fake it. Now, as you begin to see that everything is in perfect order and you're relaxed and you're loose and you're able to just walk through this emptiness of the barren 5 sense human dream, recognizing that playfulness in the imagination is how you activate the newness of spirit that brings a new kingdom into your consciousness, a new manifest creation. You start living in it now. You live in the end right now. And that's what you call faking it till you make it. And so day in and day out, you keep doing this, and you keep doing it, and you keep doing it, and you keep doing it, and you keep doing it. And I say this all the time. I like to tell stories from my own life because they actually worked based on the principle I teach. So here's the story. There I was, bedridden with Lyme disease, 2009. Wasn't really getting very well. And then, took a few years. I got out of that, but I was way out of shape and I didn't feel like I had gotten my full healing yet. And then by the grace of God, a friend of mine, Billy out in California, she says, Matthew, you should check out this seal fit stuff and try one of these 21-minute planks. So then I'm watching Mark Divine, do his seal fit challenge. And I thought, well, let's see what I can do. And I did a plank. It was like 2 minutes. And I thought, oh, geez. I'm a pathetic wimp. I thought, this is not my full potential. I haven't fully recovered. This is not the end of me. Well, I built myself up to being able to do that 21-minute plank and to be able to do a lot of those trainings and, to the point where I really did blow past all of my previous PRs from way back when I played hockey in all those years. But how I did it was I began assuming, the fake it till you make it. And I started living in my own parallel universe in my mind every single day, day in and day out. Now, the first way was I said, okay, I'm going to order some of Mark's Divine's clothing, his seal fit stuff. So I ordered like 10 shirts. I had the same shirt. I used to wear the same shirt every day. I still do that today, but it's based on what I'm creating. Okay. So I wore the same shirt. I had multiple of them. I wore it like every day. And every day I'd be like, okay, it's training day. And I just saw myself as if here I am. It's time to go to, it's time to go to class, time to work, time to train. Every day, just get a little bit better. Every day, just a little bit better than the day before. The only easy day was yesterday, right? Okay, so I started saying these things. I started to get myself into the realm of doing this as a possibility. Then I started using self-entrainment techniques, SETs. Okay, I teach that. You learn it in that book that I'm offering, Trust, the Most Powerful Force in the Universe. And I started to really play the role as an actor would play a role in a movie. You know that you are faking it till you make it when you can sell it to the world like an actor in a movie. And when you can sell it to the world like an actor in the movie, so much so that you actually sell it to yourself, the key is their feedback loop coming back to you sells it back to you, to the point where your conscious and your unconscious begin to adopt it. Then all cylinders are fired up and turned on, and you are ready to rock. So day in and day out, I got the shirt on, I'm doing my hills, I'm doing my runs, I'm using the vest, the 20-pound weight vest. I'm challenging myself, I'm doing, harder and harder workouts, and now I'm doing two a days. I got up to even doing 3 a days for a while. I would do a HIIT training, I would do a cardio training, and then I would do a heavy power strength training every single day, take like 1 day off to recover and just rest, have a free day, eat a lot of food, whatever. And I just kept living in that scene every single day, perfecting that role. And as I began to perfect that role, all of a sudden, I started making massive transformations. My body became chiseled like a warrior. I mean, absolute leanest, rock hard I've ever been in my life. My strength went through the roof. My training I actually fooled myself into becoming what I thought I could never be. For some reason, I slipped through the barriers of who I used to be and became who I chose to be. And out of that being choice, all of the qualities of life began to reflect that new decision, reinforced long enough so that it held itself intact as the new construct of my reality. And that's how you achieve everything that you make a complete transformation with. Not just a wavering, I did it once and now I can't do it ever again. That's not a complete transformation. A complete transformation is a complete rebuild of your entire persona that you govern as the spiritual awareness behind it. And how to govern this persona is just like you would as an actor in a theater, because this world is just a theater. And you reinforce it every day by the qualities of being that you pour forth into your activities and the thoughts that you keep focused on militantly every day. And the repetition of doing this drives it so deep into the unconscious that it starts to bring about, first slowly, and then it just dumps it all into your world, all of this amazing, powerful transformation. Now carry the story forward. I started that in 2015. Okay, by 2017, I had, broken all my PR, strength records, all these things. By 2019, I first met Michael Jaco, and I started, hiring him as my advisor and, doing sessions with him. And then I asked him to do the Spiritual Special Forces with me. He came out and did that workshop, and I got to share the stage with Michael Jaco and learn from him, and then do it again in 2021. And do you see what I did is that I created that from day one when I first stepped into the scene. And because I didn't let it go and I kept living from it, it began to bleed into every area and become its own self-fulfilling prophecy. Okay, and that's how you create prophecy right there, okay? And that's how you fake it till you make it, okay? All right, so let's give a couple more examples of this, and then let's talk about how you can screw this up royally, okay? Another example, well, I was in network marketing for a short season. A few years, that's, something I really liked back in, this was in the early 2000s when it was still kind of a thing. And I had a mentor. He was an amazing recruiter. His name was Norm. They called him Storm and Norman. Well, I used to visualize myself acting as him. And I would just carry on his personality. I would talk like him, and I would just start carrying my physiology the way that he did. Well, hence later, years later, I discovered that physiology was the secret to unlock this stuff. That's why I taught the self-containment technique. I really did learn more about it later. However, intuitively I knew this, and I started using it in a short season because I kept pretending. I'd go out and recruit, and I'd be him. I would just be him. I would just talk like him. I'd walk like him. I'd pretend I was him when I was walking through the mall or wherever I was, or I'd be picking up a business card. I'd be calling. I'd be talking like him. Before you know it, well, I became really, really good at what I was doing. And my results started to reflect those results. And I started to get the new identity taking shape and form. Okay? It started to happen for me. That's how this works, okay? You're there the day you can walk into it. If you can make it till you can fake it, and then you can live faking it till you make it. You're there the day you begin faking it till you make it. You're there. If you refuse to let go and you keep playing in that attitude of playfulness, having fun with it, making it joy-filled, and doing it for the sake of who you're being, not what you're getting as a result yet, you will be able to navigate through and get the results you're after, or very close to it, to the best of your capacity, I will say. Because let's face it, I can try to play like LeBron James all day long, but it's not going to happen. Well, I don't even have a desire for that. But here's the deal. Faking it till you make it unlocks your full potential if it's backed by a mission so strong that you can't help but live from that mission every single day. And when you can match these two forces together by identifying who you are, who you're meant to be, and then lining it up with this process, well, that's how I know to 20x, 40x, and I've done even 1,000x on a business idea. I mean, I've done 1,000x doing this. Okay? All glory to God, because all of these ideas came from looking to the Spirit first. That's the make it till you fake it. And then playing in the Spirit as if I already have it. And that's believing you have already received. And that's how it comes to pass, by believing you have already received. Okay? I did that again through many healing episodes where I had a really scary diagnosis, and then they said, don't do this. And I went out and I said, okay, I'm going to put all power back on Spirit, use what I know to be true. Okay, I just made it till I can fake it. Now I'm going to go face my fear, and I'm going to go do what I want to do, and I'm going to put all the burden back on God. And then I faked it till I made it, became whole again. Sometimes within the same day. Now, here's how you screw this whole thing up royally. I screwed my whole hockey career up royally, okay, by not understanding this concept. I loved hockey so much that God was blessing me with many great mentors, not the least of which was Bob Suter, Miracle on Ice, 1980, U.S. gold medal hockey team. He played on that team. Well, he won a high school national championship, a high school Big 8 championship. He won a collegiate University of Wisconsin national championship. Then he went on to win the gold medal in the 1980 Olympics. And his tenure as a coach was stemming from the attitude that he would carry. His attitude is what made him so effective. It wasn't like trick plays or anything like that. It wasn't because of anything like that. It was because of the no nonsense, stick to the principles, master them, and no excuses mentality. And because he lived, breathed, and ultimately passed that on as his legacy, I learned a lot about life. But unfortunately, in that learning process, I learned it the hard way through hockey. I remember my sophomore year, I wasn't eligible my freshman year to play varsity hockey because I had transferred from a different school district. But my sophomore year, I was eligible, and I came out listed in the paper as one of the top people to look for on that varsity team. And that same year, It was in the paper. I got ranked. My name used to be Matt Murray then. I was ranked as, the top high school defenseman, ranked sophomore in varsity, right? I had a lot of talent. I really was gifted with hockey. And I remember him pulling me aside. He was like, Murray, come over here. I got to talk to you. He goes, you could play D1 hockey. You could play hockey. You could even be pro if you really wanted to. He's like, but he goes, you're an F up. Yep. But he used the word. He said, you are seriously an F up. He goes, you keep putting these, put this girl before your hockey career. So at the time I was, dating someone, and really terrible relationship. Emotionally abusive on every level, complete codependent cycle, ultimately destroying my whole life. Okay? Skipping practices, distracted in the game because she'd show up at the game with another guy and distract me or whatever and try to get me back for something horrible I did last week. And on and on and on and on. So ultimately, I ended up pretty much pissing that career away. Well, what happened? Distraction. Distraction births defeat. And the enemy, the enemy of your soul, this is why you have to learn how to make it till you fake it. If I knew how to make it till I faked it, I would have never lost my ability to fake it till I made it. Because I had already used it to get to that point in hockey. I used it when I was young. And all of a sudden, there was the fruit of it. I'm playing on all-star teams, playing on world tournaments. I'm doing amazing things, and I'm loving this game. And then the distraction comes, just like you're being distracted through one of these what I call false start ghettos. Something is taking your focus away from your persistent prayer, which is holding your thought in accord with the idea that you want to reflect upon and let the idea take over your life. Well, I gave up the idea of hockey, and I decided to have the idea of chasing this girl around. And so right at that moment was the downfall of my whole hockey career. And I remember him telling me, he said, look, he's like, you got all the talent in the world. He goes, because you're going to find out the hard way. You keep putting this girl before your hockey career, you see what happens. And he was right. Well, what is it for you? Is it like a drinking problem, or is it, something, gambling, sports, negativity, pornography, religion? What is it that distracts you and gets in the way? Because you see, whatever gets in the way of your ability is a false idol that you've put in front of God, which is why you can't fake it till you make it. Because you're not blameless anymore. You broke the first commandment. The minute you broke the first commandment, you lost your peg, you lost your power. You lost your innocence to play. When you lost your innocence to play, which means you're free from the cares of this world, just like when you were young, right? You instead took on the cares of this world and became adults. And adults are idiots. You can't play as a child in God's kingdom if you're corrupt. So what is corrupting you? If you can't sustain this playful attitude day in and day out to the point where you just walk right into your dream life because you're already there, it means you have to go back to make it till you can fake it. And get all those false idols put before God and cast them down so that you can be set into your proper arrangement as the child of God, living in his paradise, in his kingdom, able to create with the Father. The wind is beneath your back. If it's, I just can't keep my focus, I get distracted all the time, I don't know what's wrong with me. You're corrupt, that's why. What do you mean you're corrupt? Well, you're adulterated. You put things before God, you've been doing it. You're not hiding this stuff. God sees it, and that's why you can't enter the place of playfulness. That's why you can't live day in and day out in the carefree joy that it takes in order for you to maintain this. And you haven't discovered your true mission if you can't maintain this, because you haven't seen your true self yet. you're living in accord with someone else's desires according to the ways of this world, that's a surefire recipe for disaster. And your place of prosperity is tied to your assignment, which God created you to do. And if you can't find this, you can't find your assignment, which means you can't reveal your true prosperity. You can work as hard as you want, but it ain't coming until you find your true prosperity place. But I've shared with you ideas how to align with this and how to get it this way. If you can get this through to your head, that it's not by your works, but it's by His grace and your humility and your vulnerability, plus your unself-love, equals divine reflection. And you can practice this again and again and again until God removes the burdens that are holding you back into the adulterated, corrupted state of being and frees you as the blameless child of the universe, so that you can choose to play again and you can choose to live in that playfulness. In the end result, as Neville Goddard would say, carrying that energy day in and day out into the seeds that you plant in this world. Those seeds become a harvest, and it's the quality of the seed. Two people can do the same action day in and day out. The one who has the quality that I describe in this video, with the wind beneath their back, is the one who sails to the top. The one who doesn't, well, they can try as hard as they may, but here's what happens. They lose their divine power. Whenever you take on the other self, the carnal mind's representative of this world that you have associated with in flesh, whenever you identify with that, through all of its thought and feeling and compulsion and tasks and all of this rigid mentality that it presupposes that you have to live in, taking forward actions on your own plans and schemes, you lose divine power. It flees. Because there isn't God and you. And you're trying to be the and you part. Remember who you were when you were young. Get a picture of that person. That little innocent you. Put it in front of you. Identify with it. Ask yourself, in which way, or many ways, have I deviated from this innocent person? Is it through all the sex you're seeking after? All the drugs? Is it through all of the importance in the world you're trying to achieve? Are you trying to be better than other people? Are you trying to do something that you wouldn't have done back then? Whatever it is, those are the ways of this world. That's the corruption of man. And that's what holds you back from divine power. So the secret to getting out of that is unself-love. Well, you can't be a self and have that love, so you got to get rid of that self to unself yourself. And once you unself yourself, well, then the only self is there, the big capital S self, which is divine power. And then you start flowing in that divine power in a carefree state of relaxed joy, peace, gratitude, love, playfulness, and you start seeing it for the benefit of all. And you start living in it for the benefit of all. And here's a wealth tip. If you make your wealth about something bigger than yourself, as in like, I'm going to achieve this monstrous mega money goal, for put in something or someone that you love other than yourself, your chances are probably 10 times greater that you're going to achieve it than if you think you're going to get something for yourself. Because once you do, you'll realize that you've just taken on the corruption of this world, and whatever you have, it's yours to pass through. It's not yours to build an identity from. Because the more you build an identity from that, the more corrupt you get. And the more you become of the ways of this world, and you lose your divine power. Most importantly, you'll lose your healing power. You'll lose your power to set yourself free from addictions and compulsions and all of these human insanities that seem to grab everybody and captivate them asleep in the dream of the five senses. You really do have to become the innocent, blameless child of the universe all over again to find who God created you to be. And then you get to play in the sandbox that God put you in. And you get to have fun with all of it, as long as your heart remains pure and innocent. Just little tips, things to remember.